Brad, wouldn't we already have a measurable tool? Like, couldn't we have a measurable tool that goes along with these goals so that as a Board of Education, because I've seen this in other school districts, where they have an actual measurable tool that gets updated when the superintendent updates them on it and the task has been completed, it gets checked off with the date mark.
Yeah, absolutely. We could develop a reporting process. So that's another, Crystal, and even though Beth has just asked this, I'm going to go back to Crystal's question. That's another way to try to measure things, is to have a reporting process. Right. And I think that's a great idea, that you develop a little bit of a checklist, or maybe you know, every first board meeting every month you're going to have a report on 2 of the goals or something. And it doesn't have to be lengthy, but it does have to try to get at the objectives and the actions that you've taken underneath that goal. I don't think and I want to say this about the SMART goal thing. I don't think I would get hung up on, oh, it has to be SMART, it has to be measurable. What are the measurables? Part of the big picture of goals sometimes is just having the goal. And that allows you to complete tasks and things that give you direction. So the goals give you direction. So one of the reasons why you're doing this work tonight is that you guys have intuitively felt that we need to give Angel direction. We're the board, we need to give him direction. And so by saying to him, for example, yes, one of the goals is improving facilities. Let's get these facilities improved. How are we going to do that? So now we turn that over to Angel, and he says, okay, I'm going to have a committee. I'm going to do some touring. I'm going to get this public forum going, and I'm going to do these things in the hopes of bringing something to the board that's going to allow us financing to improve the facilities. So when are you ever going to measure improving facilities? Well, when they're improved, you know, but the direction, you see the difference between that? You don't have to have that SMART on that direction that you're giving your superintendent. So I don't want you to get hung up on how are we going to measure this, but I will say that you should definitely get hung up on, let's report out. Let's hear how the progress is going. Let's have a reporting system on your tasks and actions and plans to try to meet this direction. Does that make sense? Am I saying it right? What do you think, Beth? What do you think?
Because here's one of my problems. I don't know if it's anybody else's, but when it comes this, I keep track of stuff. I keep track of, you know, what we said we're going to do, what he says he's going to do, what we actually get done. So I keep track of it, but it's awfully difficult when you have 3 and 4 hour meetings and you got 15, 20 pages of notes to go back and figure out. So if we have a reporting process tool that we can go to at any time, and it's actually updated and noted, like today we finished policies 9,000 or whatever, however it is done, it's something that we can go to and something we actually have in hand when it comes time for his evaluation tool. And I think it should have, like, you know, 1 to 3 months, or, you know, we're going to have summer school. We're going to have the summer school figured out. When that goal is completed, then the goal can be marked off as completed. It just makes it easier, and it's a tool everyone can see, if everybody understands that.
Yeah, I think that's okay. I like that. I think that's good. Somebody else have a hand up? Rebecca, what are you thinking? You're good?
Good.
So my thought, Angel, and I don't want you to not know what I'm thinking about here. So I'm putting you on the big screen so I can see your expression. Hang on. Oh, there he is.
Because my internet's still not working here on my computer, so I just have you on my.
You're on the phone. So
yeah.
I'm thinking with this 5th goal, it's just a couple of those big things you're working on. And you're going to work on them anyway, so why not put it down on your goals? So I've got the sense that policies is another good goal that we could set. So I've got that one down. I would like to suggest a third one that I heard, which is communication. So communication was mentioned by several people, and there were a few things that were involved with it. But, you know, what is the goal? What is the issue with communication? I heard some people say, hey, we need more public forums. Okay, so that could possibly fit into that facilities thing. But then I also heard about, you know, protocols and listening and transparency and shared calendars and better use of media. You know, so those are all points that could come under communication. So what's your goal on communication? Just asking that Angel in the district does a better job in communicating, or is it between the board, or is it between the staff, or is it with the community? What are your thoughts on that word communication?
All of the above.
All of the above. Okay, thank you. Great. Rebecca, same thing. You're nodding.
All of the above.
Crystal? So
Do you want me to go now?
Angel, what if we had a communication goal, something to the effect of, you know, improving communication internally and externally? And then we had a few points underneath there of the various projects that we could work on, or the various objectives underneath that goal.
I don't mind doing that, Rod. I answer emails. If I put my cell phone number available there. If the board members email me, I answer them.
Really?
What's that?
Really?
Debbie.
I do know that Angel gives us a update every Sunday evening. And if I have questions about anything that he's discussed, I email him and he responds. Maybe not right away. It could be the next day because it's not, you know, life threatening. But that's just started. He started doing that a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago, meetings ago, and it's very helpful.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, Debbie. So
Well,
nothing in particular comes to mind.
So-
Beth, Crystal.
Yes.
Beth.
No, go
Again-
ahead, Beth.
Again, I'm glad that Debbie gets it. I haven't had emails answered in forever. Well, currently I don't email him. I email the board president, but I don't believe that he's being truthful when he says he responds to all his emails, even to community members. I've been blind copied in them, and I know they haven't had them responded. So I would like to see that improved.
Okay, so responsiveness might be a strategy or an objective.
Or just period.
Yeah,
Next on the agenda, approval of superintendent goals. And the administration is recommending the board approve the superintendent goals as presented. Need a maker and support, and then discussion, if any.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Ott. Mr. Holcomb?
I'll support. Yeah.
Okay, is there any discussion?
I do, Ms. Holder. Mrs. Holder.
Okay, go ahead.
Underneath communications, I would like to have seen more detail than just improved communication, both internally and externally. I would like that added to that, that the emails from community, staff, Board of Education be answered within a time frame, even if it's, I'm researching it, I'm getting back, I'll get back to you, or someone else will follow up. I would like to see that. That was one of my biggest things for goals. The other thing is, there's nowhere on here which ones we're considering short-term or long-term, and we don't have a measuring tool that the Board of Education can look at. I know it says will be updated, but we specifically said, and Rod Green agreed, that there would be a measuring tool that we could look at as time goes on to keep track.
Okay, I would answer, but is there anybody else that has anything? Mrs. Ott, go ahead.
Well, it says on the back, some of these objectives will be completed in short term. Others will be in long term. I will be providing progress reports on a regular basis. I would imagine he's going to be updating us as he does every Sunday night in his updates of what of these that he has completed or working on. I mean, curriculum, that's going to be a short term. All he's got to do is get together with his people and get the curriculum ordered and such. We talked about how many hours were we in this last meeting when we did these goals?
Yeah, and I specifically, one of my top ones was specifically the emails and the response time back. I said that it does say improve communication, both internally and externally, but like I said, I wanted to clarify.
Then I also heard about, protocols and listening and transparency and shared calendars and better use of media. So those are all points that could come under communication.
I wanted to be clarified what the response time would be, even if we got a response back, I'm working on this, or Dr. Hill is going to be following up with this, or not just with the Board of Education, but with community and staff members. The community members that come forward and have questions, someone has to respond back to them. Whether I'm not, Mr. Abdul-Ahad may have, I don't know, Mary Kennedy respond back to public comments or something. I just wanted it to be a little bit more detailed in that area. And I understand, my short-term goal might be different than Mr. Abdul-Ahad's short-term goal. Same thing with my long-term goal. I'd like to see us point out which one, even if it's just roughly short-term or long-term, or like previous goals that I have seen, states that, and there's a measuring tool that I would imagine that the board would be interested in having that tool to be able to give a fair evaluation to Mr. Abdul-Ahad at that time of his evaluation.
Ms. Holder, the Rod Green jotted our preferences several times, asked us to show our hands. I took that document from him. At this point, it is not my recommendation to deviate from that recommendation. So my recommendation is to proceed with the document that we shared with the board, and then we can move forward.
Rod Green is the one that prepared this for you, Mr. Abdul-Ahad?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So there, I would,
Take that
so I
feedback.
did try to go back and look at the video, which is not posted on the website. I did try to go back to look at that website, because some of my notes are different than these here, because I know, first of all, my number one goal is communication and emails. That was my number one goal. And Mr. Green did say in that video that absolutely we would have a measuring tool. Like, couldn't we have a measurable tool that goes along with these goals, so that as a Board of Education, because I've seen this in other school districts where they have an actual measurable tool that gets updated when the superintendent updates them on it, and the task has been completed, it gets checked off with the date mark.
Yeah, absolutely. We could develop a reporting process.
But again, we're recording these and they're not being put on the website. So I would have gone back to clarify to make sure maybe my notes are wrong, but I can't go back and take a look at it. And I'm not in my notes. Like I said, my number one thing was emails.
Okay. Beth, maybe we'll get some clarification. We're gonna do Mrs. Chambliss and then Mrs. Thompson.
I just have one thing that I wanted to recommend maybe changing, and then a question. So under curriculum, it says review special education 504 advanced placement plans as needed. I would like to see that more as a quarterly thing, because we wouldn't know if something's failing a child until it's too late if we do it as needed. It shouldn't have to be brought to us. We should be reviewing quarterly to make sure that we are proactive in these kids and not reactive afterwards. And then the one thing I have a question about is under administrative, it says hire and retain staff. And I wanted to know what are we going to do to retain staff that, like, what is something that, like a plan? I don't know how to word it, but I don't know how to measure this because we are losing staff pretty regularly. That's it.
Next, Mrs. Thompson.
I'm not sure what we're talking about when we say a measuring tool.
Brad, wouldn't we already have a measurable tool? Like, couldn't we have a measurable tool that goes along with these goals so that as a Board of Education, because I've seen this in other school districts, where they have an actual measurable tool that gets updated when the superintendent updates them on it and the task has been completed, it gets checked off with the date mark.
Yeah, absolutely. We could develop a reporting process. So that's another, Crystal, and even though Beth has just asked this, I'm going to go back to Crystal's question. That's another way to try to measure things, is to have a reporting process.
Right.
And I think that's a great idea, that you develop a little bit of a checklist, or maybe you know, every first board meeting every month, you're going to have a report on 2 of the goals or something. And it doesn't have to be lengthy, but it does have to try to get at the objectives and the actions that you've taken underneath that goal.
If Rod Green is getting back to us on a regular basis, is he going to be measuring and getting back to us so we know what's being accomplished?
My
I don't think
My specific
Green would be-
question to him, Gloria, was that there are measuring tools that other school districts use to keep track of the goals and the progress. And my specific question to him was, there is a measuring tool. Can we create a measuring tool for our school board to have access to it so that everyone can see where we're at? I'm not saying that Mr. Abdullah does not update us on Sundays, but who is going to really remember? Is everybody going to have this in front of them on Sunday and be writing down notes on what we're being updated? There's so many things. If we had a graph, which I'm calling a measuring tool, which is like a graph that says what goals, the goals that have been listed, the goals that have been accomplished along the way. So when the time comes that we evaluate the superintendent, we have that in front of us and we know, so we're not trying to guess which goals were accomplished, how far did we get on these? It's a way of protecting him from the goals that are listed.
Some items are common sense. I don't need, I appreciate you trying to protect me. I don't need protection. The measuring tool is the superintendent evaluation tool. If I want to be rated highly effective, it is my job to ensure that you're getting all the information of our accomplishments as we accomplish them. For example, when we're presenting curriculum, if I want to get evaluated as highly effective, it would be common sense that the superintendent would update the board as goals get accomplished. So then in December, I have those accomplishments beforehand. And if you recall, typically in October, I always send you updates on my accomplishments. So again, I appreciate you trying to protect me. I don't need the protection. I just need the support. And now we'll move on. I just want.
Okay, so let me clarify then. In my opinion, Mr. Abdullah says he doesn't need protection. That's fine. But in my opinion, it's hard for me to keep up with updates and marking and knowing these goals that are in front of us right now. It's hard to keep track unless there's a measuring tool. If that video was posted so that we could see it and rewatch it if we chose to, we would know exactly the words that Rod said, which was absolutely we can create a measuring tool, which is basically a graph on all the goals and which goals have been accomplished.
Can I add one thing, please? And maybe this will answer that. I did ask, because I know you had said something to me, and I did ask more than one person. My notes never specifically said emails. I know we discussed it. I know it was inferred, or we all, I don't want to use the word assumed, we all expect that it's going to be the improved communication internally and externally. Honestly, when I look back at my minutes, my own personal minutes, I did not have email as the subsection of that. I know it was discussed. I know it was important. I know a lot of us said it. That was just my notes that I took. So, and I know others had done the same thing, because we were all like, at first, yeah, of course it was covered. Then it's like, yes, it was covered, but under this overall topic, not as necessarily a bullet point, is what I had. The second thing you were talking about, I was under the impression once these are accepted, that they were going to kind of give us a graph, and I thought then we were going to get updates as to what was done and what wasn't. We have to accept this first in order to have a place to start. Is that not correct? Did anybody understand that differently than I did? I'm not seeing anybody. Mrs. Chambliss and Mrs. Thompson.
Thought when Rod Green was talking, I thought he said that he and Angel would go back, they would play with everything, get it to where it kind of encompassed most of our big, ticket items, and then they would make it measurable and everything for us, and that we would be getting basically not like a rough draft, but something that we could tweak a little bit to really fit our needs or what we feel is necessary. And then that would be the final thing, but that to always keep in mind the mountain of stuff that Mr. Abdul-Ahad is currently working on, so that we don't add too much new stuff. So he was going to give us something that was kind of an appropriate tool and that we could tweak it a little bit. That's how I took it.
Okay. Mrs. Thompson.
Yeah, my understanding was we were going to get we were going to get updates on this after it was tweaked. Am I wrong? I don't have my notes in front of me, but I understood that we would get periodic from, I guess, Rod Green.
Well, you would get the periodic updates of where we are from me.
Correct.
Yes.
For us. Yeah. So as, for example, as we're doing the summer school, which would be a short term, right? The summer school is right around the corner, or teachers bargaining. Some items are self-evident. For example, when we present you a teacher's contract ratification, you would understand that, okay, well, that job is completed. When we go through summer school and you get those periodic reportings, some things are self-evident. And then I would give you periodic updates of our curriculum, where we are with infrastructure updates or bond ideas or strategies. Those would come through time as we prepare. That's the way I interpreted that. As we get more information, we present it to the board to get periodic updates. That's what I took out of it.
Okay. So Beth, did that answer your question?
No, I mean, like I said, I wish the video was out so that I could go over it, because in my notes explicitly it said, but I'm not going to argue with board on it or Mr. Abdul-Ahad. It is what it is. So when the video comes out, then I will rewatch that training video, which I'm going to assume is going to be put on the website. Correct, Mr. Abdul-Ahad?
We're working right now trying to get the Zoom stuff. We're still eventually it'll get on there. We're trying to get our stuff caught up. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I guess, Mr. Abdul-Ahad, is it your understanding that emails are going to be a critical part of improved communication, both internally and externally?
I mean, that's part of any profession. My understanding is, as emails come in, I respond to them. If there is a time where I overlook an email, it's not intentional. But for, 99.9% of the time as emails come in and people are asking information, we do respond, or I do forward it to the appropriate. There's times that community members might badger us or heckle us. Those emails will not be answered, but that is not for individuals to try to get answers to questions for the school district. It's just more to heckle or harass or badger us. And those emails, as professionals, we do ignore.
Okay. And I too, you did reach out to us. And if I dropped the ball at all, I would apologize to Beth and to you, because I really did try. I was trying to get my thoughts clear on what I wanted to say today. But if I did drop the ball with the communication between you and Beth, I apologize to both of you. I just wanted to make that clear, because I do know that you did make more than extra effort to make sure that everybody had questions asked. Mm-hmm. And I know, like I said, that we were kind of overwhelmed with all the paperwork that we got. So I want everybody to be comfortable with this. We know that this is not cast in stone. Things are going to change. But is there anything, I guess, what does the board feel? Are we ready to move on with this as presented?
I would say, yeah. I mean, I think when improved communication, both internally, that would be with us, and externally would be with the public if they have questions or emails. I mean, I'm willing to move on.
And I'm ready to move on. I just said that I will go back when that video gets posted. I'll go back and I will bring it to the board's attention where those sections are.
Okay.
Oh, Rebecca.
Okay. Thank you, Beth. And Ms. Chambliss, go ahead.
Willing to go forward. I just really want that where it says special ed and the 504 advanced placement plans as needed. I really think that leaves a huge gap for children to fall into. I don't think we should, as needed, when an issue arises, we review it, and we shouldn't be waiting for that issue. And I know that very recently we've had some major hiccups with students' 504 plans and things like that. So I really think making it quarterly would be most beneficial to these kids.
I just want to remind the board, some issues with student-related issues are not brought before the board, not in public session, public or in an email. And there are some violations there. So I just want you to know, I trust our special education director. I trust my building principals to do their job. And then I could give you a general changes in programming, but individual issues like that are very sensitive because of what they represent with learning needs of individual students. So I just want to make sure after we leave here, it's not like you're going to get an update on Johnny or Steven or
no
things like that. So I just want to be clear. And I do have 100% confidence in our administration. And I would hope that the board has confidence in me to implement our job. And if you're not, then the evaluation tool there is in December, where you could, rate me as you see fit.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think the special education was something that I brought up. I think that was more as electives and things. I think that's where and it's in there, explore curriculum and electives. Well, at least for Madison High School, I wanted to explore other activities and things for special ed and the 504s is what in my notes I have. So I don't know what it says. I mean, I didn't understand plans as needed because I would think that would be the special ed director's position on IEPs or 504s or whatever.
Again, these are operational matters. I would hope that the board would allow me to run the operations of the district, and and then work with our governance part, which is the training that's coming up on governance,
Right.
the roles of trustees versus the role of the superintendent, which I think is very much needed.
Right.
Well, I just want to be clear. I wasn't asking for an update on individual students. I'm saying if this is part of your job, like if this is listed as one of your tasks, I'm just saying the time frame of it could be more proactive. Because I do know that you're highly involved in that. And I'm not asking, how's Angel doing? Are we following his plan? How's he learning? I'm just simply saying that I do know you're highly involved in that. So maybe make it like a quarterly thing as a checks and balances. It doesn't mean anyone's doing an awful job. It just, if it's listed as part of your job, I'm just saying
Sure,
it should be proactive.
you could do that.
Okay. So I think we're ready to vote. Yes? Okay. Mrs. Kennedy, you're up.
Oh, Rebecca Chambliss,
Yes.
Mark Holcomb,
Yes.
Cindy Holder,
Yes.
Deborah Ott,
Yes.
Beth Scott,
Yes.
Gloria Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes.